We are still going to be very critical of Rinder and focus on an ally, Karen, but I also want to be a little bit more positive in this video, so we'll be highlighting the career of Doug Scott Kramer, who tragically passed away recently, but did a lot of good work and really tried to speak out, not just quote against Rinder and Karen, but just this kind of thought control and echo chambers in general. Very sweet guy. Let me give the basics on Karen and what happened with her and her continuing gaslighting of people and trying to silence people. And Rinder has a minor role here. He's not the main instigator, but he is in the background. So who is Karen? Karen is a very, very old woman. That's very critical because she knew Hubbard personally. So she's been in Scientology for a long, long time. She did formally leave the church a while ago. However, and I want to emphasize how incredible this is, she still practices Scientology and not secretly, very openly. And this is where it gets very tricky and very insane. So she still does auditing on the side and charging a lot of money. And she got exposed. One of her victims was Steve Mango, a very young Scientologist, who was one of the first whistleblowers back in the day in the 2000s. And she tried to cover it up, try to gaslight him. When he went public and exposed her, she called the cops. So that was a big tragic comedy. Manga has spoken out about it. He has his own YouTube channel, and he even, I think, has a TikTok. I'm not into the TikTok, so I don't know about that. I've only seen a few TikTok videos. But yeah, he spoke out about it. He showed receipts, he showed the email messages, and all this other stuff. It was pretty crazy. It was really, really bad. But even after giving a lot of evidence and suffering these false police reports, I hate to say it, but people like Aaron and some of the bigger channels and even smaller channels totally ignored him. So even now, when it's very popular to expose Render, to be open about his abuses, his allies, Karen has kind of not been exposed. People still are very careful not to upset her because she will. She will go to the authorities and make your life a living hell. I want to be careful with her. We've had no relationship. And when she exposes the church, which she does occasionally, that's fine. But she and her husband are definitely gatekeeping, and Rinder is helping them. And with Mango, they succeeded. And I hate to say it, but people like Aaron let it happen. They're still letting it happen. Now, he's not been totally silenced. He has spoken with Andrew Gold, and you can criticize Andrew Gold, but he does occasionally spotlight some more dissident, heretical people. But now we'll shift to the more positive side. Doug was totally different. Although he didn't have a big channel, he let Mango on. They spoke about the abuses. He also did platform some very controversial people like Dark Tony. But the point here is he didn't like this kind of echo chambering that the older generation did. And as long as he thought you were sincere, we could have a good, honest debate. He let you on. Again, I don't necessarily agree with Doug on everything. He was into some very controversial conspiracy research. He was into the brainwashing element and tried to free people from thought control. And he went after everyone, Illuminati, Scientology. I'm aware of this stuff. I do research it, but it's not my thing as much as his thing. So I don't agree with him on everything, but I do agree with his like independent spirit. And to be fair, Aaron and the other channels did acknowledge his passing months ago, and that was good. But unfortunately, they've basically just forgotten about him. And I realize we're focused now on Confident Chris and police brutality and the protests, and that's all well and good. But I do think it's a little weird how even the channels that quote honored his passing have basically just forgotten about him and being consistently critical of Rinder, Karen, and their echo chamber. Unfortunately, they're still being very selective. Now, that's better than nothing, but I would forewarn people a lot of the anger at Rinder is still very selective. They're only selectively angry at certain things he did, but him silencing these victims like Mango, don't know about it, don't care about it, but Doug was different. Very sad he passed. I did a few tributes last year. I will continue to do more tributes in the future. We should definitely focus on hating Rinder. He's a monster. But there were a few people that were fairly consistent critics all the way through, and one of them was Doug. Very sad that he passed away, but I will try to do the best I can to honor his memory, and that is impossible. He was a giant. I can only do what I can, and at least not give in to the echo chamber as much as I think, unfortunately, many of these channels have.